So I think in Japan, as a software engineer, English is currently an asset. We see with TokyoDev survey that engineers who are using even a bit of English in their job tend to be substantially better compensated. They make between 50% to even 100% more than engineers who are working in just Japanese. Like, as good as Japanese engineers are, they only make up a small percentage of the overall engineers in the world.はじめまして、ポールです。TokyoDev という、求人サイトをやっています。よろしくお願いします。Yeah, so I'm a Canadian, and after I graduated with a degree in computer science, I came to Japan in 2006 on a working holiday visa. And when I first came here, I managed to find a job as a software engineer. And I got involved into the community of Japanese software developers. So in 2010, I started blogging about different Japanese developer events I was going to, and I was writing about it in English. And through my participation in that, I wanted to kind of share what was going on with Japan to the rest of the world. And so at that time, I was the only person writing about being a software developer in English. And so I had other foreigners coming to me asking for advice about how to get a job here. And out of that, TokyoDev was kind of born. It grew from a blog into a job board and a community. And now we're helping like almost 100 people a year get a job as a developer in Japan. Then I think job opportunities for international engineers have increased a lot. Yeah, so I remember when I was looking for a job as a junior software engineer back in 2006 in Japan, I was only able to come across like one or maybe two opportunities that didn't require Japanese. And I was lucky to get one of them there, but they were really exceptional. When I first came here around 2006, all the software engineers I were meeting with were working as like SIers. And I think that kind of model meant the average software engineer here wasn't really that valued by their company. They were seen more as a cost than anything. And the culture of SIR companies in general wasn't that great. But I think that started to change around 2012, 2013, where I started to see more successful Japanese startups that were product focused and really wanting to build engineering teams that followed like the best practices globally. Now, those teams were still doing everything in Japanese, but they were trying to take lessons learned from abroad there. And then that continued. And around 2018, 2019 is when I have big surge number of Japanese that are looking internationally. That was when I saw bigger companies like Mercari or Smart News or PayPay starting to really hire lots of international engineers. And one difference maybe than other previous examples was they were really focused on like getting the best engineers in the world kind of to work at their company. And so they were really valuing engineers there more than perhaps I think that the bigger companies like PayPay and Mercari were looking to hire some of the best engineers in the world there. And so they were focused on really providing a good environment for engineers and attracting people based on that. Well, okay, there's a couple reasons why Japanese companies want to create an international team. One of them is to get access to the best engineers in the world. Like, as good as Japanese engineers are, they only make up a small percentage of the overall engineers in the world. And so if you have an international team, if you're able to recruit internationally, there's a lot bigger pool of people who are available to you. Another thing is, like, a lot of the leading technologies are brought forward by international people. Like, for instance, recently machine learning and AI has been a top area that companies are interested in. And Japanese companies see that there aren't so many experts on those topics domestically. And so they want to be able to integrate experts from around the world into their team. And to build a software product that is usable by a diverse audience, I think you need a diverse team making it. And so these companies look to make a diverse product team with the hopes that they're going to succeed globally with their product. I don't think overall the number has been increasing. There are other places that are maybe more attractive to the average software engineer, but at the same time, there are lots of software engineers out there still who would like to work in Japan. And they want to work in Japan, maybe not so much for software engineering specifically, but they are a software engineer. They really like aspects of Japanese culture, or they have some other personal connection here. And so they're looking for opportunities to come here. And there's far more people wanting to come to Japan as an international software engineer than there are opportunities for them. I think in the media, people hear of Japan and people doing lots of overtime, having bad working conditions. And so they maybe have the impression that if they join a Japanese company, that's going to be their life, that their kind of quality of life is going to go down here because of stuff like overtime or not being able to express their opinions or things like that. I think for the kind of companies we're working with TokyoDev, these kind of internationally minded Japanese companies, that's not really such a big issue. Like, TokyoDev does an annual survey of international software engineers working in Japan, and like the majority of them don't do much or any overtime on their job. So I think there are opportunities in Japan to have like a good work-life balance, to enjoy your career, but also enjoy your life here beyond that. But I guess then the second challenge would be that it's a different culture. It's a different language. And even if your company itself is providing an international environment, Japanese society as a whole is very much in Japanese. We've seen with our survey also that though your ability at Japanese doesn't really affect your career so much here, at least for our audience, it does affect your kind of social life outside of work, your feeling of integration into society. And so I think everyone needs to learn Japanese to some degree. So I think it's not so different than what they need to do to become attractive places for talented Japanese engineers. I think making it a more friendly engineering culture is one thing. I think one of the challenges Japanese companies face is that it's not so common here to have engineers in like leadership or executive positions. If you look at a lot of the Japanese startups, only very few of them are founded by engineers themselves. And similarly, few of them have like engineers on their board or putting engineers into really high positions within the company who can kind of influence the culture of the company to be one that engineers, international or Japanese, like. Then I guess the other thing can be to make it clearly communicate what is good about your company and your culture there, and also try and be proactive about like dispelling any myths people might think about like what your overtime culture is, or the amount of bureaucracy involved, or other kind of negative stereotypes foreigners might have about your company. And I guess beyond that, providing an international diverse environment and highlighting that basically it's a lot easier to attract more of an international audience once you already have one, which is, it's kind of a challenge getting started there. But just like maybe it would be hard if you're a Japanese engineer to be the very first Japanese engineer to join an international company, it's maybe also hard if you're the first foreign engineer to join a Japanese company. And so once you do get that ball rolling, make sure you kind of share that and highlight those international engineers that you do have. So I think in Japan, as a software engineer, English is currently an asset. It has been in the past, and it will continue in the future. We see with TokyoDev survey that engineers who are using even a bit of English in their job tend to be substantially better compensated. They make between 50% to even 100% more than engineers who are working in just Japanese. I think software engineering is done internationally in English. And so no matter what happens in Japan, it's going to be an advantage to you if you can understand English and also use English, because you'll be able to better participate in the international community globally as a software engineer. I guess trends-wise, it's hard for me to predict things generally, but I think things are kind of going to be slow to change overall. One thing we see from TokyoDev's clients is a lot of the companies who have built up a strong international team in Japan have a challenge in attracting Japanese engineers to their company. From a Japanese engineer's perspective, maybe it's a bit intimidating to join an environment where the primary language is English and where your coworkers are mostly going to be foreigners. But it's also foreigners aren't fluent Japanese speakers. They're living in Japan. They'll understand a bit of Japanese. They'll have an easier time with your Japanese accent, and it will be a much easier way to start working in an international environment. Beyond that, I don't think in the foreseeable future, at least in the next 5 years, there's going to be a massive shift in the market. For a Japanese company to become an international one, it's really hard. And that's why only a few of them have done it. And I think a lot of Japanese companies would like to become more international, but unless they're really willing to commit to it and have real buy-in from leadership on it, they're not going to change. And so because of that, I think the typical engineer in Japan is still going to be part of a Japanese engineer team, just because it's going to be hard to change things. But we're going to see a couple of examples of companies who try something new, do something different, and are quite successful at that. And then we'll see maybe more companies kind of copying them because of that.